Have you ever noticed how walking outside with your bare feet in the grass makes you feel different? Or the sunshine on your face? Or just simply paying attention to the patterns in nature, the intricate details of a leaf or the ants carrying their giant loads to wherever their homes are? Being in nature can calm our bodies. And when we are calm, it is easier for us to connect with the Lord and to pray. In today's episode, we are exploring the link between how we care for our bodies and how we connect with the Lord in a way that is natural. So when we feel too tired to pray, when we feel overwhelmed, whether you have kids at home that are creating chaos, or you are in the workplace, or maybe it's just all of the mental clutter, we're going to talk about natural ways that you can learn to regulate your body so that you can care for this holy temple, but also grow in the spiritual life. So stick around. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Persistence in Prayer podcast hosted by Catholic mindset coach, wife, mother, educator, and speaker, Kylie Hine. Kylie is passionate about helping you deepen your relationship with God through the power of prayer. This podcast is a space for high achievers who want to do it all, but also want to prioritize their spiritual life and grow in faith. Join us as we explore the beauty of persistence in prayer and the transformative impact it can have on our lives. Get ready to discover practical tips, insights, and inspiration to help you develop a daily prayer practice and cultivate a deeper sense of trust in God's plan for your life. Let's journey together towards a more fulfilled and faithful life as we invite the Holy Spirit in. Let's begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Persistence in Prayer. Today, I am joined by my good friend, Colleen Ritz. She is a Catholic wife and mother of 6 with a passion for holistic health. She is a degreed herbalist and a certified women's health coach. She has a passion for working with herbs and holistic lifestyle changes to help women feel their best so that they can glorify God in all that they do. Colleen, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
This is fun. We actually met, what was it, 8 or 9 years ago at a parade. So people are always asking, how do you find good Catholic friends, like your circle of people? And I love that we just met randomly on a sidewalk at a parade.
I love that you remember that because I actually don't remember when we first met. So that's good that you remember it was at a parade.
We live in a super, super small town. It's actually called a village. And so our 4th of July parade is teeny tiny. And I think you and your husband, I think you just had 2 kids at the time, were in town. And we ended up just parking on the sidewalk in front of our neighbor's house. And we had seen you there, kind of met, talked. And then I think over the years, we've just run into each other at random places, like outings, and then ended up at the same church.
Yep. Yeah, I have like little clippets of my memory of that. But yes, yeah, it's great who God puts in your life for a reason.
And you're a mom of 6.
Mhm.
Whenever I see you, you have a smile on your face. You are so patient. And I always think that is amazing of how you just always are at peace. And your husband travels sometimes too. So when we talk about women who juggle all of the things, you are one of those women. So I just want to thank you for being here to share all of your secrets with us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, there's definitely some hard times. It's not all rainbows and sunshine, but I think letting go. I let go of a lot of things that people worry about. I think that's
Mm,
one of the secrets of being a calm mom of 6.
yeah, you can teach us how to do that. Tell us about the herbalism journey. There aren't a lot of people that are herbalist. I actually am shocked. I know 2, you being one of them, but I don't think that's a really common thing.
No, especially in rural Nebraska, I would say it's definitely not common. It started, I always say it starts when I'm nursing a baby because I like to read books as I'm nursing my kids. And I'd say around the second, as I'm just sitting there for the many hours, I started reading these books on alternative medicine and screen free childhood. And it just spiraled from there. I started thinking, if this book can lead me down a path to maybe there being screen free or alternative medicine, then what else can I learn? And it just has spiraled really fast. But I read a book called Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan, and that would say probably changed my life completely because he talked about our food system and what we're putting in our bodies. And when it can be taken just like that, or you can equate it in the spiritual way too. Like God gave us our bodies to hold and take care of. And I would say it was even more impactful to me as I'm sitting there, like nourishing my child, breastfeeding her. I'm like, oh, wow, what I'm putting in my body, I'm feeding my children. And it's gone from there. But that has led me to getting a master's in clinical herbalism. And I'd gone through a Catholic women's health coaching program as well. And then currently, I decided to go back to school because I think I'm just going to be a lifelong learner. And I'm in a holistic nutrition program as well. So, like I said, it spiraled and it spiraled really fast, but I can't stop learning. So I love it.
Well, I'm sure too you probably saw a huge transformation from the shifts that you were making in your life. As you've done this, it's probably been gradual, but can you identify some major shifts that happened from maybe the way that you were feeling before you started this, the way that you were showing up for your family versus now?
Yes. And I think that's one of the main things how you show up for your family. When we eat cleanly and we prioritize our spiritual health and our physical health, and we actually take time as women to do those things and not feel guilty that we're abandoning our family when we take the time to prioritize that nutrition and fitness, it just gives us even more energy. You would think, oh, I'm adding something else onto my plate. I'm adding cooking that home cooked meal at night because I want a nutritious meal. But it's just exponentially increasing your energy. So I'd say that's where I saw it for me. I did, and I wouldn't recommend this, but I did a complete 30-day sugar-free everything diet. And it was a crash course on nutrition for me. And the difference that I felt just overall in my entire day was phenomenal. Now, I'm not saying that's like a sustainable diet that I did, and I learned how to incorporate those healthier foods slowly, but it was pretty eye opening how instantly better I felt when I completely just overhauled my nutrition and focused on moving my body in ways that felt comfortable for me and going from there.
So I'm curious, when you eliminated sugar, was it processed sugars? So things like corn syrup, those types of things? Or was it just okay, so processed sugars.
Everything. It was like I
Okay.
said, I recommend this, but I was like, it was actually Lent. I was like, I can do this for 40 days. I can do this for Lent. And it was so hard. It's in everything.
It
It's
is.
in your spaghetti sauce and it's in everything. So it was quite the Lenten journey, which was good because it was Lent and I was sacrificing for it. But yeah, it definitely made a substantial difference.
I actually have had clients come to me with this too, is wanting to cut out some of these things, which isn't my main realm, but we do a plan of life, and so the physical aspect is part of that, and I am mainly no sugar. I do cave during certain parts of my cycle where I'm like, those dark chocolate peanut butter cups or when the kids buy them for me for Christmas. But I'm mainly no sugar, no gluten, no dairy. And then I have my other allergy things that I can't incorporate. But like you said, it's I do not recommend doing it immediately, but you do feel so much better and you actually stop missing it after so long. You really don't recognize it until you start eating it again, and then you start craving it again.
Yeah, and it's interesting too what you all of a sudden start craving when you cut it out. Like I'm not a wine drinker. I'm really not an alcohol drinker in general. But when I cut out sugar, red wine sounded so good to me the entire time. And I haven't quite done a deep dive into what's in red wine that was making me crave it because every craving you have is probably your body telling you that you're nutrient deficient in something that they want. But yeah, I was like, why do I want red wine every single night? This is silly and crazy. But it was interesting how, and your taste buds themselves change too, and they adapt to want less sweet food as you move away from sugar.
So you wouldn't recommend starting there. Where would you recommend starting?
Yeah, when I work with women, I generally give like my first piece of nutrition advice is to take a look at your diet and take a look whether it's your breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or even a snack. And what is one time that you personally can control completely? So if you're making breakfast for the family, that's hard to control because you're making it, but you also have to cater to your family. But if you're going to work every single day and you're bringing lunch, let's look at that lunch first. And let's look at, is there any processed food in it? What processed food can we swap? I don't want you to restrict anything. I just want you to swap it out. So, say you're eating a bag of chips. We're going to swap it for an apple for a week, see how that goes. If you're still really hungry after you eat that apple, then sure, we can maybe look at that bag of chips. But let's do a swap in one area of your life that you can control and you don't have to cater to other people for this meal. And sometimes people take that as, okay, my whole entire lunch is like McDonald's. So we're actually going to make a batch lunch on the weekends and eat that throughout the week. So we start simple, start with a single swap, and then we go from there and incorporating how you can make that healthy, dense nutrient food for your family as well, because that's a whole other story. Getting kids to eat some of that stuff, unless you're making 2 meals a night, which I wouldn't recommend either,
No one
but
wants to do?
no one wants to do that. So yeah, chopping up those vegetables so finely that kids can't pull them out. That's-
Is that a secret? Yeah, so starting with a single swap, which makes sense. I do the same thing when I work with people in their prayer life or just establishing habits. Start with what you're already doing. And I think the key is really making it so simple that it doesn't feel stressful because when we overreach, like, no, I'm just going to cut everything out, it can be really easy to get defeated. Of course, I think you also have to know your own self control and your temperament. So for me, I am an all or nothing person. So it is easier for me to just have zero sugar than to have a limited amount of sugar.
Absolutely. And I know myself, if I make cookies, I'm going to eat the cookies. So for us, it's just we don't bring it into the house. And that's how we structure our nutrition. If we're really good in the house, then it's okay to go to the birthday party and eat the piece of cake, or it's okay occasionally eat out. So, like I said, we're not like super restricted because I can control this realm of my home. We eat pretty healthy in the house.
And how do the herbs fit into all of this? So, I mean, those are kind of natural swaps that people are used to. Where
Mhm.
do the herbs come in?
Yeah, we use herbs throughout our entire day. So I drink like a super nutrient dense herbal tea every single day. And that would be something like your nettle and your oat straw, which nettle is abundant around us. I'm sure if you've ever walked through like a field and gotten the burning sensation on your
Mhm.
leg, nettle. It's actually one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. And it's everywhere. It grows like a weed. So I drink that every day. But there's other herbs that women can drink as well, whether we're looking at anti-inflammatory, there's anti-inflammatory teas that you can sip on throughout the day or before bed. I drink a cup of tea before bed every single day because it kind of sets my body. It's like a physical reminder that,
Mhm.
okay, we're ready for bed. I'm going to drink this cup of tea and then go to bed. And I also think if we're talking prayer and incorporating our spiritual life into it, in the morning, if you have a spiritual routine that you do, you read the Bible or you say your prayers in the morning. I think having that physical anchor in a cup of tea is super important because you're very spiritual in your prayers, but I don't know. I always think having an anchor is an important part to it to keep you tied to what you're doing.
Yeah, I definitely have a routine, and there are a couple days every 8 weeks where I am on a very restrictive diet for my LDA immunotherapy, and I can't have any caffeine and I can't have certain foods. I can't have tea, right? It's pretty much water. And in the morning, it is so hard for me. I try to trick my brain by still drinking hot water, but it is not the same. And I find myself like just my prayer feels off for those couple of days. So definitely having those anchors. And once you switch to something new, this is my experience, it's okay. Like I can switch and I can get used to that. But when I have to switch again, that change is always just a little bit hard. And I think that's where habit stacking is really helpful, which I know you've talked about too. Do you want to tell people what habit stacking is in case they aren't familiar?
Yeah, I find habit stacking to be super important in both the spiritual and the physical journey to health because there's a limited amount of time in the day, right? So a habit stacking is you form a new habit and you have that baseline. So, say prayer. I'm going to pray every single morning. Okay, I'm going to wake up. I have my spot. I'm going to pray. I'm going to stack journaling on top of that because it's something I really do. So, I'm going to pray and I'm going to journal and I'm going to stack those together every single morning. And I'm thinking, oh, I have higher levels of inflammation within my body, or I'm getting really bad period cramps. I'm going to stack an anti inflammatory tea on top of that. So I'm going to pray, I'm going to journal while I'm sipping my anti inflammatory tea. So we're not necessarily using more time in the day, we're just using our time more efficiently. And I think when it comes to any change that you make in your life, first of all, tying it to a time of the day or tying it to something you already do is a sure way to, first of all, remind your brain that you have to do it. Because in order to form that habit, you have to do it repetitively every single day.
Mhm.
You're not spending even more time. And I, we are all busy. We're all going 100% all the time. Yeah. Habit stacking is a huge way that we can help our mental and our spiritual and
Yeah.
physical health.
And I think just making it simple, like having a plan. So if I were going to start tomorrow, let's say, drinking a new tea, right? Where would I go get this tea so I can just plan it? Like, I'm going to go order it right now. I'm going to have it delivered to my house. So it's already here. And then I'm going to pick a time of day where I'm going to drink that tea.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where's the best place? Like you mentioned nettle tea. We can go, obviously, maybe go outside and find some nettles. But for people who live in the city,
Yeah. I buy a lot from Mountain Rose Herbs. They're just a super well known. They are known for their sourcing practices.
mhm,
So you're getting a quality product. Because that's the bad thing about anything herbalism products. It's not regulated. So it's not like your milk that you buy from the grocery store, that this milk has been tested and regulated. Herbal products don't fall under that same scope. So there's a lot of junk out there, unfortunately. So I would not recommend buying from like Amazon or anything. But Mountain Rose is a great resource. I did see that there is a new tea company that ties their tea to saints, which I'm
yes,
love. Yeah, I haven't looked at their sourcing. I want to believe that they have good sourcing just because they're a
a Catholic
Catholic.
company.
Yeah, but I love like say and how awesome is that? If you are traveling in a spiritual journey and you're like, I'm going to say this novena and I'm going to keep the saint in mind, but then having a tea that ties to that saint, oh, I love it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Sacred Heart tea is what you're thinking of, but I haven't tried them yet. I wanted to because I think it would be really good. But I like
Hmm.
that idea as well. So
Yeah.
getting your herbs, finding a good source. I'm curious as you are looking at teas. I think of this even when I go to the grocery store and I'm looking at all the teas. The branding a lot of time is tied into like very Eastern meditation practices. I can't think of a good example, but do you know what I'm talking about when you go and so having a Catholic tea source, I think, not that it has to be Catholic, but just something that's doesn't completely go against or is in opposition to our faith.
Absolutely. There's so much like yuck, in my opinion, out there when it comes to herbalism. And I've walked into many local tea stores. Like every time we travel, I'm like, oh, let's go check out this apothecary or this tea shop. And I would say 80% of them have just some of that woo factor that I'm personally not comfortable with. So, yeah, either going to a local herb farm, sometimes they're a good resource. I know there's two of them around us, or just finding those Catholic companies is pretty important.
Yeah, the apothecary, I can resonate with that. My daughter always gets excited to go into places, and then you get in there and it's, "Oh, we've got stuff we don't need to look at in here." It very goes towards a lot of the new age, the witch practices, the crystals, all of those types of things, which are showing up more and more just in the everyday stores as well. So just be mindful of where you are.
Yeah, and it's hard because God gave us these plants. God gave us the earth. We were made for the garden. Adam and Eve were made and they lived in a garden that God created. So to see that witchy stuff in the stores, it's just heartbreaking because we were gifted these by the grace of God. And I feel like sometimes, especially Catholics, are a little nervous to dabble in
Mhm.
art because there is that mindset around it. But I would love to try and break that mindset because, once again, we were gifted. We were made for the garden. We were made for the plants. We were made for the smells and the beauty of nature. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And there are saints that tie back to herbalism. So I think that's an important thing for people to remember too. Saint Hildegard was the first one that came to my mind, and she's known for a million different things. I feel like she was the epitome of the do it all saint. The preaching, the art, the music, the herbs, writing books. So I think she is just incredible. And she's actually a doctor of the church, one of the few female doctors of the church. So if you don't know that and you're interested in herbalism, maybe you have some more background too, but she was the saint that popped to my mind.
Yeah, she's wonderful. She had a phrase called viriditas, which she kind of incorporated the greenness from God. And when you look at how she uses that word throughout a bunch of her writings, but she really focuses on spiritual fertility. And then she equates it to like the fertility of nature and watching the seasons grow and these plants grow and equating that back to God. Because once again, God gave us these plants. And yeah, it's just beautiful how she's a poet, right? And like you said, she's a mystic. So it's very beautiful literature, sometimes hard to follow, but yes, it's just
Exactly. Yeah. I think her writing sometimes can be hard to follow. I have a book and it has some of her art, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to get it. I think she's such a beautiful saint. But again, because she is a mystic, and it's fascinating because if you read her story, she started having visions at a very young age, but she kept them hidden in a sense. And I was reading about her, and it was interesting because she was writing to Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, and she was someone who really struggled with hiding her gifts. She had thoughts like, I can't, I shouldn't, who am I to do this? Because it was a very patriarchal, I just said that word wrong, a patriarch society, right? It was full of men. It was all the men doing all of the things. And she talks about how she was confined to a sick bed and covering up her talents and her voice, but she had this conversion and had to make a decision essentially to share her visions with the greater world. And she said it was actually through that that she had a physical energizing in her that got her out of bed. It was like that thing that just opened her eyes. And she's really well known for helping people to just really be awake and pay attention, which I think is so important in our society right now. She wasn't afraid to share the hard message and for us to wake up. So, full of so many things, but again, always tying it back to art, to music, to creation, and to our bodies.
yeah, yeah. She talks about this life force found in plants too. And when you first read it, you're like a life force in plants. But then once again, everything's all connected because God created it all for us. So she talks like the life force in plants and herbs and how that flows with the human body and just nourishing ourselves as well. She was one of the first women, I believe, that wrote how herbs can be used medicinally as well. So, yeah, incorporating how God gave them to us and the purpose that God placed them here on earth and how we can use them medicinally.
Yeah. So, as we are exploring herbs, you said some of the changes that you've seen in your own self. But again, this takes time. You also said it gives us back time. And we don't have to feel guilty about taking care of ourselves, which is a often misconception that self-care is really selfish. Can you talk about how, as a mom of 6, you make time for you? You make time to do this and to take care of your body?
Yeah, I prioritize it. And that doesn't mean that I don't prioritize my children. We are very lucky to be able to have a small gym in our house. So I do work out in that gym every single day. I know the kids come and go. And is it inconvenient they're there sometimes? Yes. But they're seeing, first of all, they're seeing me work out, which I think is a huge benefit right there. They're seeing that their mom is taking care of themselves. So not only am I taking care of my body in that hour a day that I spend in that gym, but I'm teaching my children that when we grow up to be healthy and we take care of ourselves. So right there, I'm not really prioritizing myself because I'm showing my children. Children learn by seeing. And sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, let me try and do a pull up and stuff." And once again, do I really want them there? Would I love it if I could just like blast music and be by myself? Of course. But I do think it's important that they see that. And then when we make those nutrient dense foods and it takes longer to make my bread, they're seeing the process from beginning to end as we form those nutrient dense foods and then we eat them and we share it as a family. And they're learning as well, helping in the kitchen. I always say if you have a small garden, let your children help you in the garden because they are 1,000 more times likely to eat a vegetable that they have grown, themselves in a
Mhm.
garden. It comes from the grocery store. And we'll make food and I'll cut up a bell pepper that came from I cheat. It's my parents' garden, but my kids do help in my parents' garden. I don't have a big garden myself. But, I'll be like, this is from Nana and Papa's garden. And the chance that they will eat that is so much higher than if they had no relationship with that food at all. So I think just modeling.
I think so too, and I know in my own kids, we do have a garden, which it is a lot of work, but they will go out there and they will eat snap peas straight from the garden. My son loves picking the little baby tomatoes off of the vine. I mean, he will just sit out there and eat them and eat them. If we have tomatoes at home, they barely touch them unless it's like a spaghetti sauce or something. But there's something about them actually like picking it off of the vine, and they see it a lot of times planted from seed all the way through. And I think that goes too for cooking. When they can be involved in what you are doing, it's more exciting to them and they might be a little more adventurous in trying something new.
Absolutely. Yeah, and get them involved too and have them make dinner. My son is 9, he makes dinner for us occasionally, and is it the best? No, but is he learning? Absolutely, and he'll eat it, and he'll be like, "This is delicious, mommy." Yeah, sure.
Yeah. He tried and he's learning. Do you find, or I just want to know what your mindset is. Maybe your kids don't do this and they're special angels, but my 6-year old will come in sometimes and I'll be working on something. And it actually happened just this morning, finishing prayers. And he woke up super early, like he does. And I'm like, yep, buddy, 5 minutes and we'll go downstairs and I'll get breakfast. I just want to finish. I was like writing the little part in my journal that I do at the end of my prayer time. And he always brings up this question: what's more important, mom? Your kids or this? He does it all the time. What's more important, mom? Taking care of your kids or whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's working, whether it's journaling. I mean, it could be anything, and he always brings that up, that question. What's more important? Your kids or you? Your kids or you working out? And yesterday, I was finally like, or maybe it was this morning, I was said, "You know what? Actually, I'm more important right now." And I said, "I know that's gonna be really hard for you to hear." I said, "It doesn't mean that you're not important." I said, "But if I am not more important, then I can't be filled up to give anything to you." And so, we had to have that conversation because it's easy to let something like that creep in and take over, and the mom guilt gets so heavy that you never take care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. My kids have never phrased it like that before. I'm sure if they listen to this podcast, they're like, "Oh, that's a great phrase. I'm gonna ask that. I'm gonna ask that too." Um, but yeah, that's 100%. And that's how I approach working out for a while. When all of the kids were in the gym with me, I'm like, you guys need to leave. This is my one time. This is my hour that I get to myself. I generally phrase it. I don't know how nice this is, but if someone's bleeding or if someone's thrown up, you can come really and bug me. But if it's not that, you guys have formed your own little society anyways. You guys can figure out your problems. You don't need mom's help for this hour. So that's, yeah, it's so important to fill yourself up because a cup that's empty can't pour out for others. So by doing those things, and for me, it's working out. For me, it's also being in the kitchen. But if for you, it's spending that time in nature or just sitting on your front porch if you live in the city, sitting in the sun in the morning and regulating and praying. If that's your time, just prioritize it. And it's going to be hard. And yeah, your kids aren't going to want to hear it. And sometimes they might want to join you and you can find ways to help them join you. So if yours is praying or sitting out on the front porch, you can say, honey, you can come with me, but you have to be absolutely quiet. Like you have to let me do my thing. And maybe I'll give you a piece of paper and a little crayon and you can journal next to me, but we need to be quiet because this is time for me.
Yeah. I do that at nighttime. My son wants me to stay in his room with him longer because he always says he has scary pictures. This is this whole thing. But I will lay next to him and do my nighttime prayers. And I will tell him I will stay here as long as you are quiet. And we get to have really great conversations leading up to that point where I say, okay, no more talking. And if he keeps talking, I say, okay, I love that you want to share that with me. but now it's prayer time. You can either lay there quietly and get ready to fall asleep, or I'm going to go in another room. And he always just stops.
Yeah.
So I get that bonding time with him, but I also get my quiet time. And he needs to sleep too. So I don't feel guilty about telling him it's time to go to sleep.
There you go. Your habit stacking. Wonderful.
Yes. Yes, I really do. I share that habit stack a lot because that is one of the main ways that I get my nighttime prayers in. Because otherwise it's I need to finish this, I need to finish this, I need to finish this, right? If I walk back downstairs and I see the kitchen and I see dishes out or I see laundry on the couch that didn't get put away or something that didn't get picked up, I'm going to stay and finish all that stuff and not go to bed until later and then it's going to be so late that I'm too tired to even give much of anything to the Lord. And so I really have to do it right after the kids go to bed and stay in his room until I'm done. And then I go back downstairs and I have a lot more peace about leaving things unfinished when I do that.
Mhm. I think, yeah, that's prioritizing yourself, right? For me, I have so much laundry. There is so much laundry in my house. It's insane. And it'll pile. I'm really good at getting it clean, but it will pile. And folding takes a long time. But I will walk past that laundry pile every single day to go either into the gym to work out or go to make a nutrient dense whole food meal for my kids because those two things are more important to me than the laundry. And the laundry will get done when it gets done. It's my children are clothed. Everyone has clothes
Mhm.
on backwards, so that's okay. And it'll happen when it's happened. But when we identify those things that we do need to prioritize, it's easy to say no to the rest.
Yeah, I think that's so much of that letting go that you talked about at the very beginning. That's a way that you let go. And I do the same thing. And actually, I've really started to have a lot of peace lately because I get sick frequently and I just don't have the energy to do certain things. But there are certain times in my cycle or when I'm healthy that I do have a lot of energy. And it might be 2 days out of the month, but I can get so much done in that 2 days. And so I've just given myself peace about, you know what? That laundry can pile up because in those 2 days, I'm going to knock it all out. It's all going to be put away for maybe an hour until it starts piling up again. And it's okay. Like we keep up with the stuff that the school uniforms during the school year that we have to have done, the work clothes. But if we're getting stuff out of laundry baskets, I'm really the only one in my house that cares. Everyone else actually prefers it that way because they don't have to walk upstairs to their bedroom in the morning. They can find stuff in the laundry room. So it's really a me thing. And when I can just say, this is the way that works best for us, I'm so much more at peace, and so is everyone else.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Yeah, there's things that you just let go of. It'll get done when it gets done. And everyone's happier because you're not stressed out. You're not, I don't know about you, when I get overwhelmed and stressed out, it comes out as anger. And I never want my children or my family to think that I'm mad at them because normally I'm not mad at them. I'm just, there's music playing and there's a baby crying and there's laundry and a couple deep breaths. It'll all be okay. It'll all get done. Reframing those thoughts that I had in my mind. That's another trick. I was thinking, there's so much going on. I can't get all of this done. Okay, let's reframe that thought. Everything will get done. All of your children are healthy. All of your children are fed and clothed, and that's all that matters. We're gonna sit. We will say a prayer together as a family, reset our day, and go from there.
Yes, absolutely. It does come out as anger for me too. And I think it does for a lot of women. And it's not intentional. It's just, that cortisol spikes. You start to feel stressed and it just comes out loudly, whether we want it to or not. And then your kids think that you're mad at them and you're not mad at them. You're frustrated with the situation. You start to blame yourself. I think as you dig deeper into it, a lot of times it's your own guilt. Oh, I shouldn't have pressed the snooze button because if I didn't press the snooze button, we wouldn't have been 5 minutes behind. And then all of these things that happen and we start to just shame and blame, which whether it's true or not, most of the time it's not. But even if it is true, it's not helpful. It doesn't help us move forward in peace. So we just have to start to look at that and just start to notice it because those shifts don't happen drastically in a day. It takes a lot of time and just being aware of what you're thinking. That's really it. It's starting to catch those thoughts and just recognize that you have them and not beat yourself up about having them.
Yeah, and I think that's where, like, being in community with other women really comes into play, whether it's good, like, Catholic friends that you find, or even working with someone like me who's a health coach. Just being in community with someone and keeping each other accountable is a huge portion to maintaining these habits and learning how to habit stack and identifying those thoughts that you have in your mind that are negative that you can reframe to be in a positive way. I lose my temper just like everyone does. But someone once told me, Colleen, your mood does not need to be dictated by your children's mood. Like your children's mood doesn't need to dictate your day. And that good friend that told me that, that simple phrase has stuck with me through many kids since. And she was a wonderful Catholic friend that I relied on for a lot of stuff. So I think it's just that community of people. If you have people that hold you accountable and also just have people that support you and cheerlead you and tell you like it's okay, you just call me. Call me when you're having a rough day and we'll figure out how to reframe those thoughts or just figure out how to do things a little bit differently so you don't have to sound like you're mad at your children.
Yeah.
So
I want to go back to two things you said. One, the language that I know we use in my coaching community is locus of control, right? So your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors are yours, and someone else's are theirs, whether that's your coworker or it's your children. We don't have to like the way that our kids respond. It doesn't have to feel good the way that they respond because a lot of times it doesn't feel good. I'm just going to say that it doesn't feel good when you tell your kid no to something and they have a total meltdown. I told you that right before we started recording. It was like my kids wanted to watch a movie and I said no. And then it was this whole big thing. But I don't have to change my mind about what is right for them or what I think is right for them because of how they reacted and because I don't like that they were upset. My locus of control is mine, and I can choose to be at peace in that decision. And I can look at it from the perspective of it's not good for them to be on screens this part of the day because I know the behaviors that happen when we start with that.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
just let them okay. Those are their emotions and they can blame me and they can say that it's my fault and that I'm mean and all of these other things. But I know the reality is that's not true. And this is an opportunity for them to learn to regulate their emotions and to hear the word no, which is important for kids and adults to hear.
Yes, I don't think people hear it enough these days sometimes. But yeah, especially as a mom, it can feel like all you're doing is saying no all day long. At least I feel like that for me sometimes. I'm like, I have told my kids no so many times today. But yeah, they're not going to eat junk food at 8 in the morning. I'm going to have to say no. And yeah, they're going to throw a fit. But especially first thing in the morning, that fit is not going to ruin the rest of my day. I need to reframe my thoughts so that I understand that. And that's hard to do sometimes, especially if you haven't gotten a good night's rest or you've been like eating a bunch of junk food. That can really make your emotions hard to regulate. And there are herbs. I love talking herbs. So there are herbs that can help with emotional regulation. There's a whole group of herbs called adaptogens, but that would be like your ashwagandha. That's one of the really popular herbs these days. So there are herbs that can help, you know, how we say like you only have a certain amount until your cup spills it over. There are herbs that can help your cup get a little bit bigger, but in general, it's those lifestyle changes and that reframing of your thoughts that are really a help.
And I think it's important for women to know that food does affect your stress and anxiety levels. And I've shared this before on the podcast, but it's been quite some time. When I was doing my allergy testing, I had some really rare reactions. And so they essentially need to regulate your system. They need to like reset your body. And so they inject you with different amounts of this allergen and then they just let you sit and they track what your symptoms are. And they call it doom and gloom. The doom and gloom that came when they were injecting me with that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. This really is like this anxiety that would sometimes come out of the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, I cannot pinpoint the source of this. I have no idea what's causing this. Would be caused from something that I ate that day. And it wasn't even necessarily a bad food. It could have been a banana, but my body in particular was reacting to it in a certain way. And so I think that's so important for people to know because a lot of times and it can be from other outside things, but what we're putting into our bodies really does affect those things.
There's so much of your emotion. Everyone thinks, oh, okay, my brain can regulate everything. There's so many emotions that are actually regulated by your gut. It's astounding how, like serotonin, what is it, like 70% of your serotonin, it could be off with that percentage, but 70% of your serotonin is actually produced in your gut. So that's your happy hormone, the hormone that get happy and smiley. No, if your gut is inflamed or hurting because we're just overloading it with junk and sludge, or you do have a reaction to certain foods and your gut is not happy, it's not going to be able to produce that serotonin. And all of those tiny little microbiome bacteria that live in your gut, they're not going to be able to thrive and do what they're supposed to do, what God created them to do. So yeah, nutrition is such a key aspect and it is different for everyone. Everyone is bio individual. So I know I do really good on not eating very many carbs. If my husband didn't eat carbs, he would be the angriest person that like he would be so angry it wouldn't even be funny. So everyone's so different. And yeah, working with someone or taking things out of your diet just for a week or two to see how you react to them is a good way to explore that avenue and see how do I feel? What is my mental state? Not just like my physical feeling, but what is my mental state when I'm eating in this way or that way?
I think it helps with holiness so much too. One, because when our bodies are dysregulated, we are more prone to fall into spiritual desolation just because we feel off and we don't feel good. We're tired. All of those things can lead to spiritual desolation. But also the self control that it takes to cut something out of your diet when you are craving it, that small act of mortification. You're doing it to be healthier, you're doing it to care for the body that God gave you, but you are growing in self-control, which is so important in the spiritual life, and that's something that I think I've really gained. I still would say that I'm terrible at self-control when it comes to food, but the number of things that I don't eat is really astounding. If I were to actually sit down and be really objective about it and list out the things that I'm really good about not eating, it's a long list, but it didn't start right away. It's taken me years to get there, and I still have a long way to go. But that self-control, I think, is so great for us to grow in virtue. I wanna go back to one more thing that you said earlier. You were talking about community, and I think with community and with women, this is huge because it helps us to grow, to make us feel like we're not crazy, we're not the only ones going through the struggle. But to have people that you can have conversations with, to share what's really on your heart. I find this a lot with coaching. Women will come to me and it's hard to say what's really on their mind because they feel guilty about saying it. Whether it's the way that they're feeling about their spouse, the way that they're feeling about their kids, or even themselves, there's just so much shame. But to have someone that you trust enough to say that to, and sometimes it's easier to say it to a stranger. I'll just say that it really is. It's like when you have something hard in confession and you go to a different church because you don't want to say it in front of your own priest. People do that all the time. But having a support system where they don't let you sit in the victim mentality, like you say where you're at and then they help you to move forward. This isn't a husband bashing session or a kid bashing session. This is the reality of how I feel right now. And let's just help each other figure out where God is in all of that and move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, if your church has a community of women, I absolutely recommend meeting up with them. But motherhood can be isolating sometimes. It really can be. Whether you're a working mom and you're like one of the only Catholic working moms in your community, or you're a stay at home mom, or even like me, I'm a stay at home homeschooling mom, that could be so isolating if I let it. But I make a conscious effort to get my kids into like a co-op. And specifically one next year we're doing it's like a Catholic co-op. And I know those Catholic mothers that are going to have the same values that I do. So I think just surrounding yourself with those people. There was a study done once on life expectancy. of people, and they looked at people who lived a long time and who they surrounded themselves with. And almost always the people they surrounded themselves prioritize spiritual, mental, and physical health because then they, in turn, prioritize spiritual and mental and physical health. So if you're surrounding yourself by people that aren't going to support your goals, I wouldn't suggest not like we love those people and we want to spend time with them, but find people that also support those goals that you have. It's the key to success.
Yeah, and I think when you work on one, it helps everywhere else. Like, when you feel physically better, your spiritual life seems like it's just going better and vice versa. So if you start working on that prayer life, you're gonna have more motivation to work on some of the physical things as well. So really just paying attention to both of those as you continue to move forward. As we get closer to wrapping up, do you have any kind of words of wisdom, last comments for people who maybe feel physically depleted right now and don't know where to start? I know you mentioned tea. Do you have anything else just for people? I'm so overwhelmed. I want to work out. That sounds great. I want to eat healthy. That sounds great. But when? Because I'm too overwhelmed and stressed out to even, I feel paralyzed.
Yeah. I almost always recommend 100%. I recommend 5 minutes in the morning. So if you're already spending time in the morning praying or journaling or even drinking a cup of tea, take it outside. Walk outside, get that sunlight, that early morning sunlight on your eyes. First of all, that has an astounding number of benefits. It can help regulate your hormones throughout the day. It can help set your cortisol levels throughout the day to manage your stress. But all of those benefits aside, 5 minutes standing outside in peace, praying or journaling, just being in nature, whether it's even in a city, you can do it. At least you're outside and it's fresh air. Setting that aside and preparing yourself for the day. I think preparing yourself for what you're going to face is a huge step to any changes because it's just like when you make a recipe, you pull out all the ingredients first before you actually start making the recipe, or else you're all over the kitchen grabbing the flour and grabbing the oil. But if you have it all right there, it's easy to make. It's easy to make the recipe. In those 5 minutes in the morning when you're outside and you're regulating your hormones and you're praying, you're intention setting. You're setting that intention for the day. I am going to work out today and I'm not going to feel guilty about it. I'm going to find the time, whether it's even just 10 minutes. 10 minutes of movement can be substantial. I think my recommendation for that, yeah, just set that intention in the morning and really try hard to meet that intention. But if you're not setting it first thing when you wake up, then it's not going to be a doable habit later on.
Nope, it's not gonna happen. I'm just gonna say it's not gonna happen. If you don't have it planned and scheduled into your day and stick to it, it won't happen. And you have another trick that you talked about too, or you shared with me, smiling even when you don't feel like it.
Yes, yes. I think smiling is wonderful, right? You release serotonin when you smile, your cortisol levels come down. And so even when you're not happy, even when your kid is screaming at you or you are overwhelmed, if you sit there and you smile, or even better, force yourself to laugh, it sounds crazy and you might look a little crazy when you do it, but it really does. It's an unconscious way to lower that cortisol level and increase your serotonin. The same can be said for singing because your mouth is moving in like a smile way when you're singing and listening to good music. It's amazing what simple things like that can do for your mood throughout the day.
When I find myself agitated, often with my kids, just because it starts to feel overwhelming or stressful, I will sing. And my kids sometimes are like, "Oh, mom, will you stop?" I'm like, "Nope, because if I don't sing, I'm gonna yell. So I'm gonna keep singing. And if you don't want to listen to it, just go in the other room or go outside."
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I need to put music on and sing. I'm just going to start singing to them. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I will sing Hail Mary to any tune that pops in my head, and I don't know, there's something about it that's just so calming, and it's just inviting the Blessed Mother into the stress of motherhood or work life or whatever it is, and I have just found that to be so helpful. And I find myself doing it more often, even when I'm in secular situations. It just helps me to pray for the people around me and to keep my peace and my calm when I'm in an environment that maybe I don't want to be in.
Oh, how beautiful is that? And the Hail Mary too, because like when we say the rosary, part of the act of the rosary is like a meditative, repetitive Hail Mary over and over again. So if you already have that kind of in your mindset of what the Hail Mary can do, and then singing the Hail Mary, oh, beautiful. I am stealing that tip.
You can
That's
steal it. So, prayer
better.
tip for the day. I always end every guest episode with prayer tip. So, you guys just got that one and a scripture verse. So, you gave me 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies.
Yeah, I love it. I think it just incorporates how we can praise God by being fit and healthy. It's not something that we're taking away from our life by doing it. It's something that we're adding because we were gifted these bodies by God and our journey should be taking care of them.
Yeah, I think it's so important. Again, I talk about the spiritual life a lot, but we are body and soul composite and they both matter. And we do have a responsibility to prioritize and care for both of them and not get caught up in what the world says should be our priorities necessarily. So it doesn't mean you have to spend an hour at the gym every day, but we can be mindful of what we are putting into our bodies. We can spend some time outside in the sunlight, like you said, and just care for them. I am blanking on the saint it was. I shared it on my Instagram stories yesterday, but it was a saint quote and it talks about care for your body as if you'll live forever, care for your soul as if you'll die tomorrow. And I think that is such a beautiful way to just look at it like care for your body, like you want to be here forever. I read or heard a priest talking about people kneeling to receive the Eucharist, and someone said, I'm this age and I just don't know if I can do that. And he said, if you can't do that, you need to start exercising and care for your body enough that you can, because why would you not want to be reverent in front of the Lord? And I was like, okay, point taken. I don't want to be 60 years old and not be able to genuflect or not be able to kneel. And obviously, he followed that up with, you will get to a point in your life where you are not able to do that, and that's okay. But you have a responsibility to care for your body, even if it's for something like genuflecting when you are in the presence of the Lord. And I thought, yes,
Yeah, that is, I've never thought about it like that, but that makes total sense. We have, or if you are like seeking out to help the poor or feed the homeless. You have to have the physical strength to be able to do those things. So by taking care of our bodies, we can then share the fruits of the Holy Spirit that we were personally given with the world. We can't do that if we're stuck inside or on the couch, or we got to share the fruits of the Spirit with everyone.
yes, absolutely. Where can everyone find you and your work? I know you were recently on the Hormone Genius podcast, which is so cool.
I love those ladies. But yes, I was on that podcast. If you want to talk to me, you can schedule a call at nurture-roots.net. And then my Instagram handle is NR Health Coaching. And yeah, come like me. I share a lot of tips on Instagram and you'll be able to see my face, and my kids are in a bunch of my videos as well.
And Colleen is very likable, you guys. She had a story on her Instagram about a quick tip to put your baby to sleep.
Yes.
Sifting flour, by the way.
Yeah, I was sifting flour and he had been so cranky all morning. And I was like, I'm just going to hold him. I got to sift the flour anyways. So I was sifting it through after I freshly milled my flour and he fell asleep. And I was like, oh, the shaking, like I'm just shaking the flour. And he put him right to bed. It's perfect.
Fun life hack for those of you who have littles at home.
Yeah.
Colleen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Beautiful souls, thank you again for journeying with me. If you have been blessed by this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review. Be sure to screenshot it, share it on your social media stories, and don't forget to tag me on Instagram or Facebook at Kylie M. Hine. Stay persistent in prayer, protect your peace, and as always, share the light of Christ with everyone around you.